The Mosaic Synthesis represents one of history's most profound innovations in governance, law, and moral philosophy. Moses emerged not merely as a religious figure, but as a lawgiver drawing from ancient Near Eastern legal traditions, an executive implementing hierarchical governance systems, and a philosopher whose ideas would bridge cultures across millennia. Moses embodies the archetype of the outsider, a figure perpetually disconnected from the very people he led. Born Hebrew but raised Egyptian, he stood apart from both worlds. He was adopted into privilege, yet identified with the oppressed. Though chosen as a prophet, he remained separate from priestly authority. And despite leading a nation, he never entered the Promised Land. This outsider status perhaps enabled his unique perspective on justice and governance. The Mosaic Law emerged 3 centuries after the Code of Hammurabi, yet it represented a radical departure from Babylonian legal principles. Where Hammurabi's code emphasized retributive justice and class-based penalties, Mosaic law introduced revolutionary concepts: equality before the law, protection of the vulnerable, and justice rooted in divine covenant rather than royal decree. This wasn't merely legal evolution, it was legal revolution. The Hellenistic bridge reveals how Mosaic ideas predated and influenced the great Greek lawgivers. Moses' system connected to both Lycurgus of Sparta and Solon of Athens, though he lived centuries before them. Sparta's method emphasized discipline and martial virtue, while Athens pursued democratic participation and philosophical inquiry. Moses synthesized elements that would later manifest in both traditions. The educational model of Mosaic law focused on writing principles on the heart, not merely on tablets. Through ritual, habit, and constant repetition, the Torah became internalized. This wasn't rote memorization, but deep transformation, where external commandments became internal conviction. The goal was virtue cultivated through practice, until right action became second nature. Moses faced a crisis of centralization described in Exodus 18. As sole judge for an entire nation, he created a bottleneck that risked collapse. People waited endlessly for judgments, and Moses himself faced burnout. The system was unsustainable. One man, no matter how wise, could not bear the weight of an entire people's disputes and decisions. Jethro's algorithm provided the solution through separation of duties. Moses would remain the visionary, maintaining the connection to divine law and handling only the most complex cases. But the operational burden would be distributed through a hierarchy of judges. Delegation wasn't abdication, it was multiplication. By empowering others, Moses could focus on what only he could do while ensuring justice reached everyone. This hierarchical system created layers of judicial authority. Thousands would handle routine matters, hundreds would address more complex disputes, 50s would manage moderately difficult cases, and tens would deal with daily issues. Only the hardest cases escalated to Moses himself. The structure ensured both efficiency and access to justice. But delegation required more than structure. It required the right people. Jethro emphasized that leaders must be capable, fear God, be trustworthy, and hate dishonest gain. Notice the priority. Moral character preceded technical competence. A judge's integrity mattered more than their legal knowledge, because law without virtue becomes tyranny. Delegation involves trust and oversight, a delicate balance between responsibility and control. Leaders must empower others to make decisions while maintaining accountability. Too much control stifles initiative, too little invites chaos. Moses had to trust his appointed judges while ensuring they upheld justice. This tension between autonomy and authority remained central to all organizational leadership. The system Moses established wasn't merely administrative, it was transformational. By distributing authority, he created a culture of shared responsibility. Justice became participatory rather than centralized, and the people learned that leadership could be exercised at every level, not just from the top. This laid groundwork for a society where law belonged to all. Philo's allegory interpreted Moses through Greek philosophical categories, contrasting perception and reason. Hagar represented sensory knowledge, immediate but limited. Sarah embodied rational wisdom, deeper and more enduring. This allegory showed how Hellenistic thinkers integrated Mosaic traditions into their philosophical frameworks, creating a synthesis that influenced Western thought. The four matriarchs embodied cardinal virtues in Philo's interpretation. Each woman represented a moral quality essential to the good life, and binding them together was the concept of virtue itself, symbolized by the bird Zippor, connecting earthly existence to heavenly ideals. These weren't just historical figures, but living allegories of ethical development. Moses' own journey illustrated 5 stages of moral awakening. From empathy, recognizing others' suffering, he developed courage to act against injustice. This led to internal justice, aligning his own character with righteousness. Then came universal justice, extending fairness to all. Finally, compassion crowned the journey, where justice merged with mercy. This progression wasn't linear but spiraling, each stage deepening the previous. The legacy of the reluctant leader endures across 3 dimensions. As the lawgiver, Moses established principles that shaped legal systems for millennia. As the executive, he demonstrated how to organize, delegate, and govern with wisdom. And as the mystic, he showed that true leadership requires humility, the recognition that one serves something greater than oneself. Scripture calls him the meekest man on earth, and perhaps that meekness was his greatest strength.